Fish length is an important metric when determining the size and health of fish populations and ecology and conservation. The state of the art for collecting this data is often impractical, costly, and labor-intensive. It requires divers to train for months to be able to visually estimate the length of fish in very simple categories, such as small, medium, and large. So this method is not only costly, but it's also very inaccurate. So what if we were able to automate this process, make it cheaper, more accurate, and that required no training? Well, this summer, I worked with a research group at the University of California, San Diego, in cooperation with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography on exactly such a solution. This solution is called FishSense. So how does FishSense actually work? FishSense is based on a very simple idea that all of us know from art class. In the image on the right, you can see the further away the red dot moves in the scene, the closer it approaches the vanishing point. So if we know where this red dot is in relation to the vanishing point, and if there is an object at this point as well, we can then rescale the dimension of the object in that image to find its actual dimensions. So this is great, but how do we apply this in an underwater context? So FishSense came up with a system based on a digital camera, the Olympus TG6, that is standard for underwater photography. A lot of divers already have this camera. They then designed a 3D mount and able to attach a laser to the casing of the camera. And now we take all of the system underwater and apply it to fish. So here you can see that all we need to do is point the laser at a fish and then take a picture. We then need to find out the exact coordinates of the laser within the picture, and from there we can calculate the depth and therefore rescale the dimensions of this fish in the picture to its actual dimensions. So this is great. So how did I contribute to this project? My work was mainly focused on working with the software pipeline that had already existed when I joined the project back in summer. And I worked on improving the software framework. On the one hand, I worked on processing the raw sensor data coming from the camera into an uncompressed and visually pleasing image. And on the other hand, I helped to improve the laser detection algorithm by trying 3 different approaches. So what does raw sensor data processing actually mean? When a camera takes a picture, it only collects information about the light intensity at given points in an image. It then uses that information about the light intensity and something called a Bayer pattern to then reconstruct colors that were in the actual scene. I wrote a Python framework that was able to do this and also apply further image processing techniques to give us an uncompressed image and also a visually pleasing image that we could then further use in the software pipeline. For laser detection, my first approach was to use something called edge detection. This uses the fact that the regions in an image that contain sharp changes in intensity correspond to the high frequency information in an image. Since the red laser dot is a illuminated region in the image and is bright red, which is very uncommon for an underwater scene, my idea was to filter out all of the low frequency information in the hopes of isolating the red laser and then receiving the coordinates. This approach worked, but only in a controlled environment. In this case, you can see that it worked in these images, that this was applied on our test data set, which was taken in a pool. But we want to take pictures in the field, and here we ran into problems relating to noise caused, for example, by light reflecting off of air bubbles and so on. So this led me to another approach. And now I thought about what if we used a more sophisticated computer vision algorithm. And I came across the class of algorithms related to interest point detection. The specific algorithm that I used is the SIFT algorithm. This finds blob-like interest points within an image And then I filtered out all of these interest points to then find the interest point with the highest average red value in the proximity, hopefully isolating the laser. Unfortunately, the average red value in the proximity of the laser was not significantly higher than the value in other interest points. So I had to think again. Then I started to think about the laser as a probability distribution. If we take a 50 by 50 pixel tile around the laser and then plot this laser in a three-dimensional plot with pixel intensity on the z-axis, then you can see that we receive a very distinct form, as you can see up on the left. I thought, what if we matched a probability distribution to this form? And then we took a group of samples of lasers, matched a probability distribution to each of them, and then took an average, hopefully an average of all of those distributions, hopefully giving us an ideal distribution that we could then match to tiles in a new picture. So after fitting a 2D Gaussian curve to all of my sample laser tiles and then taking the average variance, I created an ideal Gaussian 2D two-dimensional Gaussian curve, and then calculated the similarity between this tile and all of the tiles of the maxima in a new image. Unfortunately, the similarity value between this 2D Gaussian curve and the laser tile was not significantly higher than other maxima in the image. So I had to think again. So, but what did all of this work lead to? So my raw processing framework is now available on GitHub for everybody to use. And since we were not able to find a similar project when I started this this project, I hope it will be a valuable contribution to people trying to solve a similar problem and trying to understand the camera imaging pipeline, what goes on under the hood of a digital camera. Furthermore, my framework was successfully used on hundreds of gigabytes of field data from a field deployment in Florida. And my framework was also included in the most recent FishSense paper. And what about laser detection? So after seeing all of these approaches, you might be wondering, why don't we just use a stereo video solution? So on the right, you can see that a stereo video solution for this problem actually exists, but only in a very controlled environment with more artificial lighting. These are things that we don't have at FishSense. And furthermore, a stereo video set up for an underwater environment is not something that a lot of divers already have. So the upfront cost of using such a system is much higher than with FishSense. But to solve the problem of laser detection, further work is required. And in summary, I can say that not only my raw processing framework is on GitHub completed and on GitHub, but also the other three approaches that I tried are also on GitHub for people to develop further into a working solution. But further work is required on the laser detection algorithm, and I continue to work with the research group at the University of California, San Diego, and Scripps Institution of Oceanography to solve this problem. We think that thinking about the laser tile as a probability distribution will be our most promising approach. Thank you for your attention.